Well, good early evening, everybody. We're ready to start our study session here on June 2nd. I can't believe it's June already, but we're 2 days in. This is a great Monday. All our council members are present, so I appreciate you being here. Item 1 is to review the regular and special meeting agendas for tonight's council meeting. As we looked at these agendas, this sounds kind of low and echoey, so maybe Channel 11 can fix the. Does it sound kind of echoey? All right. All right, well, we're not in a cavern. But regardless, we have several things going on. We have swearing in tonight of our new city manager, Mr. Butler, so congratulations later on. Our study session today, followed by a regular study session and our special council meeting too. So with that, we have a busy agenda tonight. So with that, council, do we have about the agenda items, any questions for staff? Vice Mayor.
Mayor, received 2 public comments on Blue Card related to the special council meeting and the agenda item on that, which is the CIP plan. So if we can get just a couple of questions answered. One of the concerns that was expressed was the attachment of utility rate increases to CIP projects. Can you explain the difference between the general obligation and how those are paid for and utility bonds and how those are paid for?
Yes, Mayor, Council Member, Vice Mayor Summers. So the GO bonds, the general obligation bonds, those are paid for through the secondary property tax. So when the city issues those bonds for general projects, fire stations, police, any parks, things like that, the secondary property tax pays for that. The revenue obligation bonds, the utility revenue obligation bonds, those are paid through the rates of the utility themselves. So those are 2 separate debt obligations. The forecast rate increases, those were done last November for the forecast. Those change as we revise the forecast. And so through those, the rates for the adjustments for that is presented on the utility forecast. They're not set in stone. We will start reviewing that process here in about a month. And we'll be coming back to council and start reviewing those and having discussions with council on the rate adjustments for that.
Okay. And then in the presentation, there's essentially one document that describes all of the different bonds in this 5-year CIP, both GO bonds and utility bonds, but they're still separate, is that correct? They're just happen to be reported in one document?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, that is correct. They are separate obligations. They're individually issued separately, and so we break them out separately. For instance, park bonds are just for the parks. Library was just for the library, so forth and so on. So we do separate them out. We have them in a separate category just to show all of the bond and revenue obligations that the city is.
And then all the projects in these still have to come back to council for discussion and approval?
Yes, they are individually approved.
All right, and then one last question was specific to the natural gas. Not everybody receives every utility. And with natural gas, it's an interesting one because we service areas outside of the city in Magma, right? In the Magma
yes.
service area. Those folks are paying utility rates that will go towards bonds that are investments in those areas outside of Mesa, yes?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let's go forth.
Jump onto that. So just to reiterate, the utility rate adjustment that will affect the 25-26 budget was already approved at the end of last year, effective in January of this year. Am I saying that right?
Mayor, Council Member, go forth. That is correct. So the rates that were approved last December, they went into effect February. So they will go through the rest of this fiscal year and a majority of next fiscal year. So when we come back to the rate adjustment process, in September, October, November with council. Those rates will then be either effective either January or February for the fiscal year and then the next fiscal year. So it's kind of a rolling over. So the rates that were already adopted.
Will pretty much affect, the majority of the effect will be on the next year, the subsequent year.
Mayor, Councilmember Goforth, that is
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And Mayor, Councilmember Goforth, maybe I'll say it in a different way too. You're not binding your hands by voting for this budget. That doesn't set the course of the decisions this council will make about utility rate increases in the future. So by adopting this, because I did see how the question was phrased when it came in from the constituent, and you're not locking yourself into any utility rates over the 5-year forecast of this budget.
I'm just going to tag in and say that the general obligation bonds are voter-approved bonds.
Mayor, that is correct.
And they're, a healthy percentage, 65 to 70% of the time, the voters approve our general obligation bonds. And with that, Brian, we also have a spending limit on that called the constitutional spending limit for Mesa. And I know that we are well below that. I don't know if you can elaborate on our spending limit.
Mayor, that is correct. I would ask Mike Kennington, the CFO, to come up to explain.
Well,
a little
good,
bit
it's
more of
about
that.
time to get him up here.
Glad you wore a tie.
Mayor, council members, it's good to be here.
Well, I think it's important that everybody hears this because we're at well below the thresholds that we could otherwise be at.
That's correct, thank you. There's a certain percentage of our assessed value that the cities have that provide a limit to how much they can offer or issue in outstanding GO bonds. And the state issues this report every year, indebtedness report, and they just recently released it. And Mesa is sitting at about 13% of our statutory constitutional limit of how much GO bonds we can issue. So we're very conservative in the amount we issue, and we're at 13%, which is about middle of the road, middle of the pack of the table.
Good, thank you.
12.96.
Thank you.
I think that's an important message to know that we're a very frugal, well-run city, but we also listen to our constituency, the residents in our community, to know whether or not they want to fund certain programming that we have. And that spending limit is very important. But then we also forecast out in the future. Maybe you can talk about the forecast as well.
So yes, Mayor, Council, the Office of Management and Budget works closely with the departments, especially the utility departments, to see what projects that they'll be looking to do, current projects that are going on, the timetable for those, any future projects, and kind of forecast out those projects along with the operations and maintenance of those projects and the operations and maintenance of just running the utility itself. And what we do is we forecast those revenues and expenditures. We look at account growth, usage, things like that to forecast out the revenues. And then what we do is then take a look to see what do the rate adjustments need to be like for the utilities. And then especially with the general obligation bonds, we take a look at the secondary property tax and also the operations and maintenance to make sure that if we're able to build, say, a fire station, currently we have 2 fire stations underway, are we able to operate and maintain those? And we take a look at the forecast in the outer years to make sure that we have sufficient resources to be able to operate those facilities.
And I think it's important to note that these forecasts we look at all throughout the year. So we actually know what our income streams, our revenue is in our community. So, I know that people, some criticize our budget, but overall I feel that we're very good about what we're doing. We use the forecast to help figure out what we're going to do in the future, and I find that very great. So with that, council, any other questions on any budget? Do we have anything off consent yet, other than, I think,
Park North.
Park North, 8A and B? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Holly, anything off it? Any blue cards or anything?
The only comments received were for what Council or Vice Mayor Summers just spoke about, and item 8A, which is already off consent.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Then item 2A is take action on various board and committee appointments. Is there a motion to approve that?
Sorry. You asked if there was anything else on budget, but
Oh.
are we done with the agenda? Because I do want to have a conversation about Park North.
Okay,
We haven't had a presentation at the dais or a conversation at the dais, and I'm eager for that.
okay. We have a presentation. Mr. Ballmer?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is case ZON 24708. As Councilmember Spilsbury mentioned, this is for a development called Park North. There are a few specific requests with this agenda item. The first is a rezone from LC with a PAD overlay to limited commercial with a new planned area development overlay tailored to this specific request. They're also asking for a council use permit and site plan review. All of these requests would allow for the development of a 120-unit multiple residence development. A subject property is crosshatched on your screen here. We're on the north side of Guadalupe, just east of Power Road, adjacent to Monterey Park, now Christopher Brady Park. Here you can see a photo looking north from Guadalupe into the site. You can see the park in the background. When the timing of when this application was submitted, we reviewed it against the 2040 Mesa General Plan. Per the 2040 Mesa General Plan, the character type for this area is neighborhood with a suburban subtype. While that's primarily single residential in nature, it does allow for areas of multiple residence and commercial development along arterial frontages and at major intersections. As I mentioned, the current zoning is LCPAD. This specific PAD is to allow, the new PAD is to allow for deviations to development standards. Getting into the multiple residence use just a bit, multiple residence is actually a permitted use in the LC zoning district if you meet specific criteria. And there are three that to consider. The first is that the gross floor area of all the buildings on the site is greater than or equal to 60% of that gross floor area. In scenarios where there are multi-story buildings, 65% of the ground floor of each building should be reserved for commercial, and the density shouldn't exceed 25 dwelling units per acre. If all of those criteria are met, multiple residence is a use by right in the LC district. Deviations from those require a council use permit. The applicant is asking for a council use permit to deviate from the floor area requirements. They are under the 25 dwelling unit in density. Here you can see the site plan. There's a total of 4 buildings, 2 with 36 units and 2 with 24 units. There's an approximate 4,000 square foot clubhouse near the center of the site. Access to the site is unique. It's actually going to be a bridge over Guadalupe. The applicant would be responsible for constructing that bridge over the drainage channel. Emergency egress is to the west. There's a commercial property on the corner. They have it in easement that allows for emergency egress. There's also a pedestrian connection in that location to connect to that commercial development. Parking, they're right on. 252 are required. 252 are provided with 122 covered spaces. As I mentioned, they're asking for a number of deviations as part of the PAD request. They're outlined in your staff report. I won't get into all of them, but I would note they're primarily related to the building and landscape setbacks. The way that the LC district is structured is that setback is measured to building and parking areas. So the actual buildings themselves meet the setbacks, but the deviations that you see here on the right, the 0, the 5, and the 15, those are to parking canopies and parking areas, not the actual buildings themselves. Here you can see the landscape plan proposed for the site, and this would probably be a good point to mention. Agenda item 8B on your agenda is a development agreement. There are 4 primary components with that development agreement. One of them you can see here on the landscape plan. All of the trees located north of the property line are actually in the park. The development agreement that the applicant has signed is to install and the trees, the irrigation, and maintain those. They're warranted for a year. On the park property, they're also going to install a pedestrian connection on the park property that connects to the existing infrastructure on the park. You can see an aerial of the site. When an applicant asks for a council use permit, there are, for this specific request, residential uses in a commercial district, there are two sets of criteria that we look at. The first one is from section 1131-31F. Those are specific to the residential uses in the commercial districts. Again, those are outlined in your report. I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have on those. The second set is from section 1176 of the zoning ordinance, and those are just general council use permit requirements. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have there. There's been some extensive citizen participation and outreach as part of this. They did the required notice of 1,000 feet and then HOAs in registered neighborhoods. 2 meetings were held in March and November of last year. Staff has received numerous emails in opposition. We've updated the citizen participation report with the most recent data. We did also get 2 emails in support of the project. Staff does find that it complies with the Mesa 2040 general plan, as well as chapters 69 and 22 of the zoning ordinance and the criteria for a council use permit. Staff's recommending approval with conditions. The Planning and Zoning Board also recommended approval with conditions. And just a real quick summary on the development agreement, there's 4 primary points related to that. The first one is, you'll notice on the site plan, they don't actually have frontage on Guadalupe Road. They've working with the Maricopa County Flood District to install the landscaping and irrigation along Guadalupe Road to enhance that area. The second point that we mentioned earlier, was to install and connect irrigation for the landscaping in the park and that pedestrian connection into the park. There's also a requirement that all of the lessees in the apartment complex be notified that they're adjacent to a park and that there's noise and lights and things like that they're acknowledging that they live next to. With that, I am happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Council, questions? Ms. Pillsbury?
Go ahead. On the parking, what is that parked at, 2.1?
Mayor, Councilmember Pillsbury, yes, 2.1.
And is there any concern or worry that there would be overflow parking anywhere? Like, they wouldn't be allowed to overflow park into the park, I'm assuming, into that parking lot that's north of the property?
That's correct. From staff's perspective, they are meeting the required parking, which includes provisions for resident and guest parking as well.
And there is no wall between the property and the park?
There will be a wall, Councilmember Pillsbury. The wall would be built entirely on the apartment property. The Parks Department did not want the maintenance or the liability of that. So instead of putting that park right on the property line, it's brought back onto the apartment property.
But then there'd be a gate or something?
There would be a gate, correct.
Or a pedestrian pathway?
Correct.
Okay. I know, I watched P&Z on this, so I know that I want to give some attention to the neighbors' concerns. The biggest ones I heard were just the traffic on Guadalupe and not just the traffic, but that's a dangerous street and that there's a lot of accidents that happen. So I don't know if someone from traffic wants to address that, or are we doing further studies to address the safety issues, not just the traffic count? Because I know the street has plenty of capacity for increased traffic.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilmember Pillsbury. So I think to address that, and first of all, there is plenty of capacity on Guadalupe. As part of our citywide safety action plan, the intersection of Power and Guadalupe was reviewed, and it's something that it didn't land in the highest priority as far as intersections to upgrade, but it's something we'll be looking at doing here probably in the midterm future, probably a couple years out, whether or not this development goes in or not. So.
Okay, so you wouldn't do anything preemptively? It would just.
Well, the number of vehicles that'll be coming from this will probably not change the numbers at the intersection
Just
itself.
if there were already any existing issues with traffic flow or something that's making it not be safe. And I know this is a hard part because there's County, Gilbert, and Mesa that kind of all convene right here.
It does, Councilmember. The intersection is ours. The traffic signal is ours. And I think we will be looking to, I'll call it upgrade it. Right now, there are single left turn lanes and you can turn left whenever the light is green. We recognize there's a high school on the other side, on the Gilbert side. We will be upgrading this intersection to make it protected only with dual left turn lanes. The width is already there. It's a restriping and changing out some traffic signal heads and mast arms to do that. Like I said, it was identified on the list to do. It's not as high as some other other intersections that we want to get to, but it's something we're going to be moving forward with.
Okay, we're getting quite the crowd out there. It's distracting me. Well, I know, I'm assuming they're all here for you, Mr. Butler, but.
I'd rather than be here for you.
I know, it's distracting me, it's getting loud. So this piece, has commercial been, have they tried to attract commercial? Oh, let's open the door. Have they tried to, I don't know, I'm looking at you. Have they tried to attract commercial to this property? And commercial would then make the traffic even higher, is that correct? I'm just trying to understand this.
I might let Eric address that part about traffic.
Typically, commercial retail traffic is higher than residential. There may be certain parts of the day, obviously morning peak hour, that it may be lower if those businesses aren't open, but overall, in general, commercial retail generates more traffic throughout the day.
Okay.
Regarding your other question about marketing the site for commercial, the applicant is here. I think they intend on giving a presentation upstairs. That would probably be a good question for the steps that they've gone through for the applicant.
Okay, perfect. I'm just, since we haven't had an opportunity to have a presentation and discuss this, I just wanted to get a little bit of background to not make that too long upstairs, but I guess I can ask more of my questions upstairs.
Any Vice Mayor?
Just ask a few things. Just for clarification, the current LC requires 65% of the, ground floor area to be reserved for commercial uses, correct?
There's two requirements. So in the LC district, a gross floor area of 60% reserved for commercial is required. In scenarios where you have multi-story buildings, 65% of that ground floor also needs to be commercial.
And this would maintain an LC but reduce that number to 0?
That is
under the new PID. All right. And then the Guadalupe Road landscaping, you mentioned that's in the Maricopa County Flood Control District. That's not going to be on property?
That is correct.
Okay, and the same with the landscaping along the park, that's going to be on the park side, guaranteed for a year, but then the city will have to maintain it.
That is correct.
All right, and then there's an access park pathway that you mentioned. Once it gets past the gate, who maintains it?
It would be the same thing. There would be a warranty period for a year for the construction. Beyond that, it would be parks that would maintain that sidewalk.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for now.
Sorry, I remembered did you want to go?
Mr. Adams?
I'll be brief, thank you. I'm assuming we're going to have a presentation and discussion upstairs on this, then I'll hold my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms.
I'll
Pillsbury?
just ask a couple more. So the bridge that's being constructed, that is the property's
Correct.
responsibility?
That's a good question, Mayor, Councilmember Pillsbury. So yes, it is the responsibility of the applicant to, one, install, and then two, maintain that bridge for its lifespan. The city would take no responsibility for that bridge.
And just for clarity, that is in the development agreement.
Okay. And then that other part onto the adjoining property is an emergency access?
Correct.
Are we going to talk about that upstairs at all?
If you had specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'll see what happens upstairs.
Okay.
All right.
It's so confusing
Upstairs.
what to say now, but and while I have the thought about the traffic, I did request a copy of the traffic study that was conducted. And currently, the Guadalupe's traffic capacity is 12,000, and it's rated for 40,000 per day. And commercial from the traffic study is 50 to 70% higher than residential. So just to share that info, and I forwarded the traffic study to you, Julie.
All right, I think you're done. Thank you. We'll wait for something upstairs too. With that, item 2A is take action on various board and committee appointments. There a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Spilsbury, Vice Mayor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Great. Next is current events and conferences attended. Council members, do you want to add anything for what you've done this past?
Just want to mention this morning.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's up to you.
Well, I'll start out for what, I was at Eastmark. We did an Orange Sofa Talk.
yeah.
Vice Mayor was there. Appreciate that. Quite the conversation with the community, Eastmark. With the chamber, I was at the Elks Lodge with Dr. Strom, our new incoming superintendent for Mesa Public Schools. Visited with them. Went to Chandler Community Celebration for Preston Lord's Legacy Law. That was in Chandler Saturday with Assistant Chief Butler. I got to talk at the KDC Performing Arts Indian Theater there at the Indian activities there at the Piper Theater. Attended the Desert Challenge Games archery competition at the Lehigh Sports Field. Also talked at the Global Ties International Visitor Leadership this morning. And then we had our police department headquarters brick busting. So that'll be a great time, about a 20-month time to demo and build it back up. Okay, I'm going to be the only one here. Okay, with that, well, Mr. Butler, can you share with us your first time with meeting minutes?
Well, Mayor, Council, I'm glad I get to share as part of my first report out of this. After tonight, we're going to cancel this coming Thursday's study session, so you already get a break. So I'm trying, even though you've already given me the job, I'm trying to still make you happy. And so we will convene again for a study session on Thursday, July 12th.
Thank you. Well, hearing that, is there a motion to adjourn study session? Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I'm sorry, June 12th. No. Yeah. Okay, I don't like you all that much to give you that much of a break. June 12th, excuse me.
Okay.
Mayor Freeman.
Correction noted.
Yes, you have an approval for minutes, I believe, on here. Right? Yeah, number 3. Item 3.
Dies for a lack of a second.
Item 3 is acknowledge the receipt of minutes.
So
There's two. Yeah, there's 2 sets of minutes.
Okay, item 2A is, let's start over. Item 2A is take action on various board and committee appointments. There are motion to approve. I think it was Ms. Spilsbury and the Vice Mayor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 3 is to acknowledge receipt of minutes. Thank you. Ms. Duff, thank you. Mr. Adams, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We've done the current events. Now is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Goforth. Thank you, Mr. Adams. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll see everybody upstairs.